Señoras,
Ladies
señores,
and gentlemen,
buenos días.
good morning.
Una vez más,
Once again,
siguiendo una tradición
following
de
a
la que me
tradition
siento honrado,
by which I feel honored,
el secretario
the
general de
Secretary
las
General
Naciones
of the
Unidas
United Nations
ha invitado al
has
Papa
invited the
a
Pope
dirigirse
to
a
address
esta
this
honorable
distinguished
Asamblea
assembly
de las
of
Naciones.
nations.
En nombre propio y en el de toda la
In my
comunidad
own
católica,
name and that of the entire
señor Ban
Catholic
Ki-moon,
community,
quiero
I wish to
expresarle el
express to
más
you,
sincero
Mr.
y
Ban Ki-moon,
cordial agradecimiento.
my heartfelt gratitude.
Agradezco también sus amables palabras.
And I'd like to thank you for your kind words.
Saludo asimismo
I greet
a los jefes de
also
Estado
the
y de
heads of
gobierno
state
aquí
and heads of
presentes,
government present,
a los embajadores,
as well as the
diplomáticos
ambassadors,
y funcionarios
diplomats,
políticos y
and political and
técnicos
technical
que los
officials
acompañan,
accompanying them,
al personal de las
the
Naciones
personnel
Unidas,
of the United
empeñado
Nations engaged
en
in
esta
this, the 70th session of the General Assembly.
Al personal de
The
todos los
personnel
programas
of the various
y
programs and
familia,
agencies of the
de la
United
ONU
Nations
y a
family,
todos los que de un modo u
and all
otro
those who, in one way or
participan
another,
de
take
esta
part
reunión.
in this meeting.
Por medio de ustedes saludo
And through
también
you,
a
I
los
also
ciudadanos
greet the
de todas las
citizens
naciones
of all the nations
representadas
represented
en este encuentro.
in this hall.
Gracias por los esfuerzos
I thank you,
de todos y de cada
each
uno
and all of
en
you,
bien
for your
de la
efforts in the
humanidad.
service of mankind.
Esta es la quinta vez que un papa
This is
visita
the
las
fifth
Naciones Unidas.
time that a pope has visited the United Nations. I follow in the footsteps of my predecessors, Pope Paul VI in 1965, Pope John Paul II in 1979 and 1995, and my most recent predecessor, now Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, in 2008.
Todos ellos no ahorraron expresiones.
All of them expressed their great esteem for the organization, which they considered the appropriate juridical and political response to this present moment of history, marked by our technical ability to overcome distances and frontiers, and apparently to overcome all natural limits to the exercise of power.
An
essential response, inasmuch as technological power in the hands of nationalistic or falsely universalist ideologies is capable of perpetrating tremendous atrocities. I can only reiterate the appreciation expressed by my predecessors in reaffirming the importance which the Catholic Church attaches to this institution and the hope which she places in its activities.
The
history of this organized community of states represented by the United Nations, which is presently celebrating its 70th anniversary, is one of important common achievements over a period of unusually fast-paced changes. Without claiming to be exhaustive, we can mention the codification and development of international law, the establishment of international norms regarding human rights, advances in humanitarian law, the resolution of numerous conflicts, operations of peacekeeping and reconciliation, and any number of other accomplishments in every area of international activity and endeavor. Now, all these achievements are lights which help to dispel the darkness of the disorder caused by unrestrained ambitions and collective forms of selfishness. Certainly, many grave problems remain to be resolved. Yet it is clear that without all those interventions on the international level, mankind would not have been able to survive the unchecked use of its own possibilities. Every one of these political, juridical, and technical advances is a path towards attaining the ideal of human fraternity and a means for its greater realization. So for this reason, I pay homage to all those men and women whose loyalty and self-sacrifice have benefited humanity as a whole over these past 70 years. In particular, today I would like to recall those who have given their lives for peace and reconciliation among peoples, from Dag Hammarskjöld to the many United Nations officials at every level who have been killed in the course of humanitarian missions and missions of peace and reconciliation. The experience of the past 70 years, beyond all these achievements, has made it clear that reform and adaptation to the times is always necessary in the pursuit of the ultimate goal of granting all countries, without exception, a share in and a genuine and equitable influence on decision-making processes. The need for greater equity is especially true in the case of those bodies with effective executive capabilities, such as the Security Council, the financial agencies, and the groups or mechanisms which were specifically created to deal with economic crises. This will help to limit every kind of abuse or usury, especially where developing countries are concerned. The international financial agencies should curb for the sustainable development of countries and should ensure that they are not subjective to oppressive lending systems which So the international financial agencies should care for the sustainable development of countries and should ensure that they are not subjective to oppressive lending systems which, far from promoting progress, subject people to mechanisms which generate greater poverty, exclusion and dependence. The work of the United Nations, according to the principles set forth in the preamble and the first articles of its founding charter, can be seen as the development and promotion of the rule of law, based on the realization that justice is an essential condition for achieving the ideal of universal fraternity. In this context, it is helpful to recall that the limitation of power is an idea implicit in the concept of law itself. To give to each his own, to cite the classic definition of justice, means that no human individual or group can consider itself absolute, permitted to bypass the dignity and the rights of other individuals or their social groupings.
La distribución fáctica del
the effective distribution of power, political, economic, defense-related, technological, etc., among a plurality of subjects and the creation of a juridical system for regulating claims and interests are one concrete way of limiting power. Yet today's world presents us with many false rights and at the same time broad sectors which are vulnerable, victims of power that is badly exercised. The natural environment and the vast ranks of men and women who are excluded. These are sectors closely interconnected and made increasingly fragile by the dominant political and economic relationships. That is why their rights must be forcefully affirmed by working to protect the environment and by putting an end to exclusion. First, it must be stated that a true right of the environment does exist, and for two reasons. First, because we human beings are part of the environment, we live in communion with it, since the environment itself entails ethical limits which human activity must acknowledge and respect. Man, for all his remarkable gifts, which are signs of a uniqueness which transcends the spheres of physics and biology, is, at the same time, a part of these spheres. He possesses a body shaped by physical, chemical, and biological elements, and can only survive and develop if the ecological environment is favorable. Any harm done to the environment, therefore, is harm to humanity. Second, because every creature, particularly a living creature, has an intrinsic value in its existence, its life, its beauty, and its interdependence with other creatures. We Christians, together with the other monotheistic religions, believe that the universe is the fruit of a loving decision by the Creator, who permits man respectfully to use creation for the good of his fellow man and for the glory of the Creator. But he is not authorized to abuse it, and much less is he authorized to destroy it.
Para todas las creencias religiosas, el ambiente
in all religions, the environment is a fundamental good.
El abuso
The misuse and destruction of the environment are also accompanied by a relentless process of exclusion.
In effect, a
selfish and boundless thirst for power and material prosperity leads both to the misuse of available natural resources and to the exclusion of the weak and the disadvantaged, either because they are differently abled, handicapped, or because they lack adequate information and technical expertise, or are incapable of decisive political action. Economic and social exclusion is a complete denial of human fraternity and a very grave offense against human rights and the environment. And the poorest are those who suffer most from such offenses for three serious reasons. They are cast off by society, forced to live of what is discarded, and suffer unjustly from the consequences of the abuse of the environment. These phenomena are part of today's widespread and quietly growing culture of waste.
Lo dramático de toda esta situación de exclusión,
the dramatic reality, this whole situation of exclusion and inequality with its evident effects has led me, in union with the entire Christian people and many others, to take stock also of my grave responsibility in this regard, and therefore to speak out together with all those who are seeking urgently needed and effective solutions. The adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the World Summit, which opens today, is an important sign of hope. I am similarly confident that the Paris Conference on Climatic Change will secure fundamental and effective agreements.
No bastan, sin embargo, los compromisos asumidos solemnemente.
Solemn commitments, however, are not enough, even though they are a necessary step towards solutions.
La definición clásica de justicia.
The classic definition of justice, which I mentioned earlier, contains, as one of its essential elements, a constant and perpetual will. Justitia est constans et perpetua voluntas ius sum quique tribuendi. Our world demands of all government leaders a will which is effective, practical, constant, with concrete steps and immediate measures for preserving and improving the natural environment and thus putting an end as quickly as possible to the phenomenon of social and economic exclusion, with its painful consequences of human trafficking, the marketing of human organs and tissues, sexual exploitation of boys and girls, slave labor, including prostitution, the drug and weapons trade, terrorism, and international organized crime.
Es tal la magnitud
Such is the magnitude of these situations and the toll in innocent lives that we must avoid every temptation to fall into a declarationist nominalism which would just assuage our own consciences. We need to ensure that our institutions are truly effective in the struggle against all these scourges.
The number and complexity of the problems require that we possess technical instruments of verification, but this involves two risks. We can rest content with the bureaucratic exercise of drawing up long lists of good proposals, goals, objectives, and statistical indicators, or we can think that a single theoretical and a priori solution will provide an answer to all these challenges. It must never be forgotten that political and economic activity is only effective when it is understood as a prudential activity, guided by a perennial concept of justice and consciously conscious of the fact that above and beyond our plans and programs, we are dealing with real men and women who live, struggle and suffer, and are often forced to live in great poverty and deprived of all rights. To enable these real men and women to escape from extreme poverty, we must allow them to be dignified agents of their own destiny. Integral human development and the full exercise of human acts of dignity cannot be imposed. They must be built up and allowed to unfold for each individual, for every family, in communion with others, and in a right relationship with all those areas in which human social life develops: friends, communities, towns, cities, schools, businesses, unions, provinces and nations. Now, this proposes the right to education, also for girls who are excluded in certain places. The right to education, which is ensured first and foremost by respecting and reinforcing the primary right of the family to educate its children, as well as the right of churches and social groups to support and assist families in the education of their boys and girls. Education conceived in this way is the basis for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and for reclaiming the environment. At the same time, government leaders must do everything possible to ensure that all can have the minimum spiritual and material means needed to live in dignity and to create and support a family, which is the primary cell of any social development. In practical terms, this absolute minimum has three names: lodging, labor, and land. And one spiritual name: spiritual freedom, which includes religious freedom, the right to education, and all other civil rights. Now, for all this, the simplest and best measure and indicator of the implementation of the new agenda for development will be effective, practical, and immediate access on the part of all to essential material and spiritual goods: housing, dignified and properly remunerated employment, adequate food and drinking water, religious freedom, and more generally, spiritual freedom and education. Now, these pillars of integral human development have a common foundation, and this is the right to life and, more generally, what we could call the right to existence of human nature itself.
La crisis ecológica.
The ecological crisis, together with the large-scale destruction of biodiversity, can threaten the very existence of the human species. The baneful consequences of an irresponsible mismanagement of the global economy, guided only by the ambition for wealth and power, must serve as a summons to a forthright reflection on man. Man is not only a freedom which he creates for himself. Man does not create himself. He is spirit and will, but also nature. Creation is compromised, where we ourselves have the final word. The misuse of creation begins when we no longer recognize any instance above ourselves, when we see nothing else but ourselves. Consequently, the defense of the environment and the fight against exclusion demand that we recognize a moral law written into human nature itself, one which includes the natural difference between man and woman and the absolute respect for life in all its stages and dimensions. Without the recognition of certain incontestable natural ethical limits, and without the immediate implementation of those pillars of integral human development, the ideal of saving succeeding generations from the scourge of war and of promoting social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom, risks becoming an unattainable illusion, or even worse, just idle chatter, which serves as a cover for all kinds of abuse and corruption, or for carrying out an ideological colonization by the imposition of anomalous models and lifestyles which are alien to people's identity and, in the end, are irresponsible. War is the negation of all rights, and it's a dramatic assault on the environment. If we want true, integral human development for all, we must work tirelessly to avoid war between nations and between peoples. Para tal fin, hay que asegurar el imperio. To this end, there's a need to ensure the uncontested rule of law and tireless recourse to negotiation, mediation and arbitration as proposed by the Charter of the United Nations, which constitutes truly a fundamental juridical norm. The experience of these 70 years, since the founding of the United Nations in general, and in particular the experience of these first 15 years of the third millennium, reveal both the effectiveness of the full application of international norms and the ineffectiveness of their lack of enforcement. When the Charter of the United Nations is respected and applied with transparency and sincerity and without ulterior motives as an obligatory reference point of justice, and not as a means for masking spurious intentions, peaceful results will be attained. When, on the other hand, the norm is considered simply as an instrument to be used whenever it proves favorable, and then to be avoided when it is not, a true Pandora's box is opened, releasing uncontrollable forces which gravely harm defenseless populations, the cultural milieu, and even the biological environment. The preamble and the first article of the Charter of the United Nations set forth the foundations of the international juridical framework: peace, the pacific solution of disputes, and the development of friendly relations between nations. Now, strongly opposed to such statements, and in practice denying them, is the constant tendency to the proliferation of arms, especially weapons of mass destruction, such as nuclear weapons. An ethics and a law based on the threat of mutual destruction and possibly the destruction of all mankind are self-contradictory and represent an affront to the entire framework of the United Nations, which would end up as a nations united by fear and distrust. Hay que empeñarse There is urgent need to work for a world free of nuclear weapons, in full application of the Non-Proliferation Treaty in letter and spirit, towards the goal of a complete prohibition of these weapons. The recent agreement reached on the nuclear question in a sensitive region of Asia and the Middle East is proof of the potential of political goodwill and of law exercised with sincerity, patience, and constancy. I express my hope that this agreement will be lasting and efficacious and bring forth the desired fruits with the cooperation of all the parties involved.
En este sentido, no faltan duras pruebas
in this
de las
sense,
consecuencias
hard evidence is not lacking of the negative effects of military and political interventions which are not coordinated between members of the international community.
Por eso, aún deseando
For this
no
reason,
tener la
while
necesidad de hacerlo,
regretting to have to
no
do
puedo
so,
dejar de reiterar
I must
mis
renew
repetidos
my repeated
llamamientos
appeals
en relación
regarding
con la dolorosa
the painful
situación de
situation
todo el Oriente
of the
Medio,
entire Middle
del
East,
norte de
North
África,
Africa,
de otros países africanos,
and other African
donde
countries,
los cristianos, junto
where
con otros
Christians,
grupos
together with
culturales
other cultural or ethnic groups,
incluso junto con
and
aquella
even
parte
members
de los miembros de la religión
of the
mayoritaria
majority
que no quiere
religion
dejarse
who have
envolver
no
por
desire to
el
be
odio y la
caught
locura,
up in
han
hatred and
sido
folly,
obligados
have been
a ser
forced
testigos de
to
la
witness the
destrucción
destruction
de sus lugares
of
de
the
culto,
places
de
of
su
worship,
patrimonio cultural y religioso,
their cultural
de
and
sus
religious
casas y
heritage,
haberes,
their houses
y
and
han sido
property,
puestos en la disyuntiva de
and
huir
have faced the
o pagar
alternative
su
either of
adhesión al bien y a
fleeing
la paz
or of paying
con
for
la
their
propia
adhesion to
vida
good and to
o
peace
con la
by their
esclavitud.
own lives or by enslavement.
Estas realidades deben constituir un
These
sello
realities
llamado
should serve as
un
a
examen
grave
de
summons
conciencia
to an
de los
examination
que
of
están a
conscience
cargo de la
on the
conducción
part of those
de los
charged with the
asuntos
conduct of
internacionales.
international affairs.
No solo en los casos de
And
persecución
not only in
religiosa o
cases of
cultural,
religious or cultural
sino en cada
persecution,
situación
but
de
in every
conflicto,
situation of
como
conflict,
Ucrania,
as in Ukraine, Syria,
Libia,
Iraq,
Sudán del
Libya,
Sur, en la
South
región de
Sudan,
los Grandes Lagos,
and the Great Lakes
hay
region.
rostros concretos antes
Real
que
human
intereses de
beings
parte.
take precedence over partisan interests, however legitimate the
En las
latter may
guerras y
be.
conflictos
In wars
hay
and
seres
conflicts,
humanos
there are
singulares,
individual persons,
hermanos y hermanas
our brothers
nuestros,
and sisters,
hombres y mujeres,
men and women,
jóvenes y ancianos,
young and old,
niños y niñas
boys and
que
girls
lloran,
who weep,
sufren y
suffer,
mueren.
and die.
Seres humanos que se
Human
convierten
beings
en
who
material
are
de
easily
descarte
discarded
cuando la
when
actividad
our only
consiste
response
solo
is to
en
draw up lists
enumerar problemas,
of problems,
estrategias y
strategies,
discusiones.
and disagreements.
Como pedía al secretario general de las Naciones
As I wrote in
Unidas
my letter to the Secretary
en mi
General
carta
of
del
the
9 de
United Nations
agosto
on
de
the
2014,
9th of August
la más
2014,
elemental comprensión
the
de la
most basic
dignidad
understanding of human dignity
obliga a la comunidad
compels the international community,
en particular a través de las
particularly
normas
through the
y los
norms
mecanismos
and
del
mechanisms of
derecho
international
internacional,
law,
a hacer todo
to
lo
do all
posible
that it can
para detener
to stop
y prevenir
and to prevent
ulteriores violencias
further systematic
sistemáticas
violence
contra las minorías
against
étnicas
ethnic
y
and
religiosas
religious
y para
minorities
proteger
and
a las
to
poblaciones
protect
inocentes.
innocent peoples. Along the same lines, I would mention another kind of conflict, which is not always so open, yet is silently killing millions of people. Another kind of war experienced by many of our societies as a result of the narcotics trade. A war which is taken for granted, but poorly fought. Drug trafficking is, by its very nature, accompanied by trafficking in persons, money laundering, the arms trade, child exploitation, and other forms of corruption. A corruption which has penetrated to the different levels of social, political, military, artistic, and religious life, and in many cases has given rise to a parallel structure which threatens the credibility of our institutions. I began this speech recalling the visits of my predecessors. And now I would hope that my words will be taken above all as a continuation of the final words of the address of Pope Paul VI, spoken almost exactly 50 years ago, but they remain ever timely. And I quote, "The hour has come when a pause, a moment of recollection, reflection, even of prayer, is absolutely needed so that we may think back over our common origin, our history, our common destiny. The appeal to the moral conscience of man has never been as necessary as it is today. For the danger comes neither from progress nor from science. If these are used well, they can help to solve a great number of the serious problems besetting mankind. Among other things, human genius, well applied, will surely help to meet the great challenges of ecological deterioration and of exclusion." And I continue in quoting Pope Paul VI, "The real danger comes from man, who has at his disposal ever more powerful instruments that are as well fitted to bring about ruin as they are to achieve lofty conquests." That is what Pope Paul VI said. The common home of all men must continue to rise on the foundations of a right understanding of universal fraternity and respect for the sacredness of every human life, of every man and every woman, the poor, the elderly, children, the infirm, the unborn, the unemployed, the abandoned, and those considered disposable because they are only considered as part of one or other statistic. This common home of all men and women must also be built on the understanding of a certain sacredness of created nature. Now, such understanding and respect call for a higher degree of wisdom, one which accepts transcendence, and at the same time rejects the creation of an all-powerful elite and recognizes that the full meaning of individual and collective life is found in the selfless service to others and in the sage and respectful use of creation for the common good.
To
repeat the words of Pope Paul VI, the edifice of modern civilization has to be built on spiritual principles, for they are the only ones capable not only of supporting it, but also of shedding light on it.
El Gaucho Martín
Fierro, a classic of literature in my native land, sings, brothers should stand by each other because this is the first law. Keep a true bond between you always, at every time, because if you fight amongst yourselves, you'll be devoured by those outside.
El mundo contemporáneo,
the contemporary world, so apparently connected, is experiencing a growing and steady social fragmentation, which places at risk the foundations of social life, and consequently leads to battles between ourselves to defend our conflicting interests. The present time invites us to give priority to actions which generate new processes in society so as to bear fruit in significant and positive historical events. We cannot permit ourselves to postpone certain agendas for the future. The future demands of us critical and global decisions in the face of worldwide conflicts which increase the number of the excluded and those in need. The praiseworthy international juridical framework of the United Nations Organization and of all its activities, like any other human endeavor, can be improved, yet it remains necessary. At the same time, it can be the pledge of a secure and happy future for future generations. And so it will if the representatives of the states can set aside partisan and ideological interests and sincerely strive to serve the common good. I pray to Almighty God that this will be the case, and I assure you of my support and my prayers and the support and prayers of all the faithful of the Catholic Church, that this institution, all its member states, and each of its officials will always render an effective service to mankind, a service respectful of diversity and capable of bringing about, for the sake of our common good, the best in each people and in every individual. Upon all of you, may God bless you all.
Very moving standing ovation for Pope Francis delivering a very, very strong speech before the United Nations General Assembly. Cristiano Marpur This is a speech that touched the most sensitive issues affecting the Vatican on the international stage right now.
Exactly, Wolf, absolutely. He talked about everything from the oppressive current financial and debt structures of the world, the tyranny of economic exclusion. He exhorted leaders over and over again to not just put out pronouncements and commitments, but to actually muster the political will to use their powerful platform to make a change in life. And very importantly, as now they say farewell to the Pope there, he ended